Brought to you by Penguin Random House Canada.
Audition. Written by Pip Adam. Performed by Saskia Maarleveld.
1. Giant looks in the mirror and sees nothing. Donda West. In the spacecraft, Audition. I'm in the basketball court, Alba says, wedged between the floor and the ceiling. I'm in a hallway, Drew says, unable to move, pushed into a corner, bent over, and it's hard to breathe. I'm stuck in the last room I could fit in, Stanley says. We all are, Alba and Drew say. We all are, Stanley agrees. I feel like there used to be more room, says Stanley. Like before this. I feel like I want to say, this is a beautiful ship. I want to say, Alba says, they have done a really nice job of building this. I want to say, spacecraft. I want to say audition, Drew says. I feel like I want to say, they have done a good job of building this beautiful spacecraft called Audition, and we are all lucky to be inside her. And we only need to whisper to say it, Alba whispers. Whisper it into the walls, because Audition hears us and turns our noise into speed and steering and air and gravity. You can hear me, and I'm only whispering, Stanley whispers. We all are, Drew whispers. We all are, whispers Alba. And it is perfect. They did a good job of building the beautiful spacecraft Audition. I think we all think we are going to die, Stanley says. But really, Alba says, what would we know? It would be better if we took a moment to be really grateful for this beautiful spacecraft, which used to be so perfect for us, which was built especially for us, when we got too big for Earth. We were big on Earth, Drew says. Too big, Alba says. And now we're too big for the spacecraft Audition, Stanley says. I think we're just not looking at it right, Drew says. I think really we're stupid and probably there's nothing wrong with the ship and the circumstances we find ourselves in. Bent over, painfully trapped. A bird in an egg, Stanley says. A fetus in a uterus, Alba says. Waiting for something magnificent, Stanley says. Also, Alba says, we might still be growing. Also, Drew says, gravity keeps humans small. Not us. Not all of us in this ship. Earth's gravity did nothing for us. We were inhumanly tall on Earth, Stanley says. The classroom was outside. The roof was the sky. We towered over the teachers. But, Drew says, Earth's gravity, that seemed to have abandoned us so completely, cared infinitely more deeply than the spacecraft Audition's fake gravity, powered by the sounds of us living. Why do we have a basketball court? Stanley says. To play basketball, Alba says. There are 18 of us on the ship, Stanley says, and 5 in a basketball team. Is the basketball court even for playing basketball? Plus reserves, Drew says. But still, Stanley says, even a child could see this would happen. The growing again? Alba says. The fast growing again, Stanley says. You can feel the extent of the ship if you feel for it, Drew says. There are 18 of us on a ship the size of a small city. There's room for 10,000 normal-sized humans, 20,000 at a pinch. We were big, but not 1,000 times bigger than a normal-sized human. Even a child could see it would happen if we stopped talking, Stanley says. That if the gravity of a planet could only barely keep us at bay, in the engineered gravity of a spacecraft powered by sound, if we stopped talking, we would grow again, fast. But what would I know? The people who built the ship did an amazing job. Fuck. Are you all right? Stanley asks. I tried to sigh, Alba says. but that banged my head into the roof. "We really do, now, have the strength to destroy the whole beautiful ship, and now we have it, we don't want it," Stanley says. "And then where would we be? If we put an end to the spacecraft Audition?" "Maybe better," Alba says. "Maybe better to die in space than to grow and grow until your body explodes the ship anyway, and you die in space anyway. But maybe the ship will hold, and our lungs will be crushed as our bodies run out of room finally. Us and the others. Maybe, somewhere else in the ship, one of us is already out of control, having made a decision, on the verge of pushing the walls of the ship out into the darkness of space." "Shh," Drew says. "Listen. Sound travels differently now we're all stilled and jammed up into corners and walls. It seems to be enough to keep the ship going, but it's also muted. Our bodies are so much bigger, they're dampening all the metallic that the ship used to make, all the high pitch and ting of our huge boots when we walk down the corridors. The swish of the doors has stopped too." "How long has it been?" "I'm not sure." "It started slowly," Alba says. "Like these things always do. Aided by a healthy hope that it isn't happening at all, a hope that kept everything at bay, made orderly decisions possible, and then it happened very quickly. All of us seeing all at once that all of us were growing again, very fast and before all of our eyes. Like the steady roll of a train coming into a station, getting clearer as it gets closer, as it gets bigger, so apparent in its inability to stop. And we all dropped everything we were holding or doing or controlling and ran in all directions towards wider, more open spaces. Some of us pushing others out of the way. We were giant on Earth, and it was terrifying for everyone," Alba says. "But not like this." "We could see each other growing, in front of us," Drew says. "The beautiful ship Audition was built big to accommodate us, but not now. Now we are twice as big as when we arrived. 3 times. 6 cubits and a span on Earth," Drew says. "At least 18 feet tall now." "I had room in the basketball court to start with," Alba says. "So much room I thought maybe we'd all overreacted. But now I'm bent over from the part of my back that is just below my shoulders. My knees are sitting on either side of my head. I'm pretty sure, maybe, that something inside me is broken or disconnected, or at the very least cut off from circulation, so it will need to be amputated if I ever get medical help. But what would I know?" "There's no help coming," Stanley says. "Because there's no help needed, and because everything is fine. Someone knows how to fix this," Drew says. "Not anyone on this ship," Alba says. "We're all stupid. But someone in charge, they made a wonderful job of the ship." "If the people in charge had wanted us dead, they would have killed us on Earth," Stanley says. "There have been 100 ships a day for nearly 2 years," Drew says. "The ships radiate out from all over the Earth's surface into endless space, a new astrology. If they wanted us dead, they could have killed us on Earth and burned our bodies. The fires would have raged all over the world, lighting the night, melting the ice." "So," Stanley says, "probably they couldn't have burned our bodies." "But," Alba says, "this is also upsetting. Think of the normal-sized people sad and powerless against the unforgiving nature of space." "They were good to us," Drew says. "Kind, when the growing on Earth started." "Sound travels differently. Now we're all stilled and jammed up into corners and walls. It seems to be enough to keep the ship going, but it's also muted. The ship is perfect." "My left eye," says Alba, "can just see out a skylight that was large when I first got on the spacecraft Audition, but is small now. I can see the darkness and the stars, and they are beautiful, and I'm thinking again about breaking out, but I can hear you talking through walls. The sound more like touch now we're all squashed so close to the walls, almost part of the walls." "I was saying," She came in the door and said,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?